Love is all is love is all love is all is love is all.
Hello and welcome to Pray Love, hosted by Deb Maybury and Dave Rogers. We appear here live on Facebook Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. and talk about a wide variety of spiritual topics. Hello, Mr. Rogers. How are you this evening?
It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood.
You're so funny. Okay, on that note, let's talk about the neighborhood and do the land blessing.
Absolutely. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties, is within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon, Wampum Agreement. Mother Earth, Father Cosmos, all enlightened beings, ancestors, friends, and family, thank you for joining us today for this wonderful opportunity to connect, to explore, and to perhaps celebrate June 2021. Thank you, Deb.
And thank you, Dave, for doing that. That's something that we started up about a year ago. And I think it's really important for us to honor the land that we are so blessed to be on here. So I'm going to bring in, we have our guest tonight. There he is. Hey, Terry.
Hey, how are you guys?
Oh, that's
Great.
great.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Really excited about this show tonight because Terry goes way back and he just terrified me. So we'll talk a little bit about why
How
he terrified me just by looking at me in a certain. Here, wait a second. Rah, look at that, eh?
All right. Very nice.
Many moons ago, our martial arts paths crossed. I think it would have been 94, 95. Anyways, let me do an introduction. Terry J. Hodgkinson is a martial arts and meditation master educator. Since the publishing of his book, Memoirs of a Wandering Ninja, Walking the Path of Enlightenment, he's been asked to lead seminars and trainings globally. Terry has taken 18 sabbaticals. I don't know if it's more at this point, but 18 sabbaticals to the Far East, studying in over 100 ashrams, temples, and schools, where he developed an in-depth understanding of Eastern wisdom and how to infuse that in Western ways. When Terry blended a third pillar, which I want to talk about this evening, the quantum theory, to his practice, it became complete, allowing him to deeply impact the personal evolution and spiritual quests of others. And we're all on a spiritual quest here at Pray Love. So welcome, Terry. Again, thank you so much for joining us. You know what? You know, these other things, see, there's other, like he's got this, that was the short version. Terry's a certified master Reiki trainer, a mindfulness master life coach, a master hypnotherapist, NLP teacher, a medical Qigong, Tai Chi teacher, master educator, and Jung Fu meditate. Like it just goes on and on and on and on. So my very first question for you, Terry, is when you were a little boy, what profession did you actually think you were going to pursue? Because it seems like you're pretty, like you're broad. You've done a broad stroke, which is not unfamiliar to myself or Dave.
Yeah, for a while when I was a teenager, or a preteen, I should say, I thought that my profession, I would end up in jail later on in life because I was a pretty messed up kid, coming from a dysfunctional family, abusive, violent, alcoholic father, no confidence, no self-esteem, no sense of direction, tons of pent-up anger, frustration, and I took it out on doing a lot of weird stuff and unlawful stuff and hanging out with the wrong group of kids looking for, to be accepted. And what changed all that was martial arts for me.
Martial arts.
Got me on the better path, and meditation calmed me and helped me to focus on better things, while the actual physicality of the arts gave me and built up my self-esteem and my confidence. So going back that far, I'd have to say I really didn't have any profession or any sort of focus as a kid on what I wanted to be. I did want to be the possibility of maybe a California Highway Patrol police officer on a motorcycle, but that's because I watched that show Chips in the 80s.
Didn't we all? And you're pretty big, like you're pretty tall, right? So with that little nasty edge there, you could have gotten yourself into trouble, gone either way, right?
Absolutely. It really, and you know, when I first started taking martial arts, it wasn't for the spiritual aspect of the art. It was to learn how to fight and kick the asses of people in my schoolyard, because I was tall for my age and I kept getting picked on as a tall kid. I was lanky, very, very tall, skinny, lanky kid. But you know, I was always the person to challenge, and mostly not just because I was tall, but because I had this fear-based mentality of being always picked on in the schoolyard. And so I would draw that to me, because whatever you think the most of, you draw to you. And so that changed when I started taking martial arts, and the confidence and the self-esteem and the focus and the attention span, the ability to control my thoughts and my emotions. All of a sudden, people just, you know, and it wasn't even they wanted to fight. They just didn't want to challenge me anymore. It wasn't something that was in their radar, because it wasn't in my radar anymore.
Right. Just on that note, how old were you when you began? And I went searching, right, for what your certification and rank, but I know you're well beyond even that one at this point. But how old were you when you started?
I started at 12 years old, and I started in judo for 2 years. And just with judo, with 2 years of judo, in phys ed class at school and in the schoolyard, when you know you're wrestling with some of your friends, and you know at that age you're all trying to prove yourselves to each other, and I found just with judo being able to pin, hold, and keep people in positions I wanted them to be in was enough for them to say, okay, yeah, you know, you're not just an easy pushover per se. But then when I started Kung Fu, that just changed everything, because it was so much more in depth, and the meditation started. And that was at 14 years old. I started that, and ended up in the adults class by the age of 15. I was in the kids class, and kids back then in our Energy Lake Studios system, you had to be 12 years old to start. There was nothing any younger than 12 years old at that time. And so I had, made it in, and I was supposed to be in the the sort of the teenage class or whatever. But then I very soon was promoted into the adult training, and that was an eye opener, because I had adults trying to tear me apart in sparring. From back then, we sparred right in white belt. So I remember a number of times of just literally being a bag for a target, but it toughened me up. And I had one instructor, his name was, he was the head instructor at the time, Hilario was his name, and he actually, I quit. Because one adult, I was 15, they kicked me in the stomach and they gave me a bloody nose. And I thought, okay, if I got to do this every single class, I'm not learning anything. I'm just getting, beaten out. And this guy was probably about 30 years old. And so I quit, and Hilario called me up and he said, notice you haven't been in class for a while. What's happening? And I said, well, I just don't think I'm going to come back anymore, because I'm experiencing this and it's just not very fun. I really don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I've just got into the adult class and I'm, already I'm not learning anything. And so he said, you come back, I'll make sure everything works out. We'll teach you properly. And I look back on that, and if he hadn't made that one call to get me back, I might not be on this path that I followed since that point in time. So it's very interesting how these little things happen, and they can be the pivotal moment or path of which way you go. And I'm very, very thankful that he did call me up and say, get your butt in here and let's work it out. And I did.
Oh, you just gave me, I don't know, you just gave me goosebumps everywhere, because I think we both have those defining moments in our lives that set the stage for where we'll go. I have one of those martial arts, and it was with a peer of yours at the time, because I was in Energy Lake. Started February '93 with Daniel Aikido. And I remember going in there and thinking this was different, because I had gone to a few places. And again, it was the seriousness level of it. I remember taking a shot in the face, and it was like, oh my God, what is going on here? But there was a correction, and there was acknowledgement that level wasn't going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that foundation just set the course, I think, for a lot of what I've done. I wouldn't be doing this right now if it hadn't been for all those things that happened in that martial arts stream. So I'm glad you stayed at it. And our connection was, you came as a guest instructor. I started in the instructor program, and you came over to the Brampton studio when it was on Queen Street, right? The big studio. And
Yes.
You came in, and you were, I don't remember what the topic was, but you came in for maybe 2 or 3 different evenings, and you instructed us. So you left your mark, because you were really serious. You looked really like, again, it was like this guy, like, I'm like, oh my God, that guy looks scary.
I've mellowed a lot over the years, Deb.
Are you actually still teaching?
I am. I still have a number of students that I teach. I also do a lot of teaching in universities and corporations. Not last year. The year before last year, just before COVID happened, I was actually teaching in a university out in just outside of New Delhi, India, medical professional university. I was teaching medical Qigong and Tai Chi and meditation. And then down in the south in Bangalore, I was teaching there as well too. So I go around, I do a lot of teaching for companies. We have a big company in the States called BrainTap, and they have me out at their conventions every year, and I do the teaching there.
Yes. Why don't you say what BrainTap is? Then Dave, I'm going to get you jumping in here. What is BrainTap? Because I'm going to put up some of your different sites here, but BrainTap is one of them. I was going to ask you what that is.
BrainTap's the invention of one of my really good friends, Dr. Patrick Porter. Basically, it's meditation, but it's done with technology. And the technology includes different things like isochronic tones, binaural beats, frequency following response. It has lights in the ears for the meridians in the ears. The lights flash over your eyes as well too. Your eyes are closed, but that helps with the frequency following response to get you into the alpha theta zone. And then there's the auditory portion, which is what you're listening to. And these are the meditations. And there's probably 40, maybe 50 programs now. So well over, I would say 1,000 different sessions, maybe 1,400 different sessions now from different programs that people would listen to help them engage the way that they want to be thinking, rather than the way that they're thinking that's not working for them. So it just helps them to really focus in on what their goals are, what their target zone is. That's
80% of my practice right now, is just that narrative, that unending narrative. Right? Is this part of the hypnotherapy? Is that how you got it?
Dr. Porter was the owner of Positive Changes, Hypnosis. So he was the founder of that. And so he has a background in, psychology, but also hypnotherapy. And so he's put that to use with also the meditations and created the BrainTap, which is what we do now. We used to do the Positive Changes centers, but they're brick and mortar locations. And we found that only people that live within your vicinity of your brick and mortar location could come. With the BrainTap, we're in at least 30 different countries now, and it's widespread. So people, it doesn't matter where you are, you can do it right in your own home, the comfort of your own home, and which is good for people who haven't got, let's say, really serious issues. That's where you might need a more personal touch with somebody in person. But the BrainTap we've really been able to help a lot of people. And we're in universities, we're in companies, even Harley Davidson has this in their company for their employees. A lot of companies use us for employee experiences to help with the stress and manage the anxiety or anything that they might be experiencing, or to improve their comfortability around clients or customers, and just help them to focus in on doing a better job. So, actually, even at Ryerson University, I introduced it to them, and they're using it for their faculty and for some of their students in psychology and stuff. And then we're in Duke University in the States, who they've done a bunch of studies on what we're doing, and it's gone really well. So, and Kansas State University has done some studies on what we're doing. So, and it keeps on expanding and expanding each year. So.
Well, that's fabulous. I'm gonna have to go check it out. I just became a hypnotist, so
yeah, congratulations! I saw that you were pursuing that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and then I heard there's a Sachan's brother. I forget his P. What's his name? Sachan's brother. Positive changes. Priyan. So I just received something from my teacher because they're looking to hire some hypnotists apparently. So it was just small world. Anyways, yes. Dave, please, let's hear your voice.
Well, first of all, I love your story about critical moments with Hilaria, and it's just so brilliant to bring him into this conversation also, because it's those critical moments that sometimes just it happens in a moment and it really does change our path. And so thank you for that. And that's just an encouragement to anyone who's watching us today to think about some of those critical moments, those people who've had a great impact on our life. Another word or theme that you had in your story, I'd love you to share a little bit about your relationship with sabbaticals and the way that you've infused, maybe tell a story about your martial arts journey with your sabbatical journey, so that people can get it as perhaps a new context for their life, and they might be thinking of sabbatical, and some of yours sound absolutely wonderful.
Thank you for the questions. Yeah, it started actually in my training. I practically lived like a monk, because all I ever did, and Deb can probably contest to the seriousness of how we trained back, in that day and age. Once I entered the apprenticeship program, there was nothing else in my life. All I did was eat, sleep, train, meditate, study philosophy, and teach. And that was it, day after day for years and years and years. So back at that point, I really didn't do a lot of traveling because I was too intense on developing myself through the apprenticeship program and becoming a full-fledged instructor and eventually a master educator instructor. So once I completed that, there was this yearning to go to some of these places where the original philosophies of the arts began. And some of that was in India, some of that was in China, and some other countries within the Asian vicinity. So I started in India, and I wanted to get into more understanding of meditation, because I had done a lot of meditation through the martial arts. But it was basically very simple meditation. So you were told to sit down, cross your legs, keep your back straight, breathe down to your belly, and keep your eyes closed. And, if you went to ask a question, you were told basically shut up and shut up. That was your instruction. Now, it really did me good, though, because after I faced the boredom of meditation starting at age 14, I learned to start focusing my mind and keeping my attention on my breathing. And then wonderful things started happening. And then eventually I, moved just organically into this realm of Vipassana meditation, of being able to observe my thoughts or whatever was coming up in the theater of my mind, or being able to, observe outside influences without, judging them or associating with them, or I could just sort of stand back and witness them happening. But I didn't have all the terminology. I couldn't tell you that was, samatha meditation followed by Vipassana meditation, because we didn't use those kind of words. I had the experience. So I went to India and I started actually studying formal Vipassana meditation in different locations around India. And I just, it was just such a beautiful, because I had the foundation already. It was just such a beautiful experience to experience it within a country like India that has the energy of meditation vibrating like crazy, and many other energies too. So when I started experiencing that, and I had some really aha moments about just some pivotal changes in my understanding of myself, my relationship to this world, my relationship to others. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. So I continued to travel for years and years on my own, and I started branching out to different countries and going to different temples and different places of meditation, sort of centers and teachings in philosophy, and just sort of absorbing all the information, and then also just taking time to see the sights of the different countries. But every time I had an aha moment about something I would see or experience, and I'd turn around and there was nobody there to share it with, because it was me. It was always me. And then I would go back home. I don't know if you probably, Dave, have had this experience when you're with people who haven't had similar experiences, and you go to tell them about it and you try to express it to them the way that you experienced it. And they're like, yeah, that's very interesting. Did you catch the score of the game the other day? And I'm like, no, you're missing it. You're missing what I'm saying here. So maybe you came to the same conclusion. I figured, that's it. I got to start taking people with me. The only way that they're really going to get this is if I take them and I bring them into these situations where they can have these wonderful moments, these critical moments of epiphanies, of where they just go, oh my God, this is amazing. And then I knew it would be with them for the rest of their life, because you can't communicate it verbally. So that's why I started doing these sabbaticals, first for myself, first for me to delve into the different teachings of these different cultures, experience them, and then to share them with what I do now with Tao Journeys, which is taking people to different energy hotspots and immersing them into the culture, into different practices.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I am curious because, again, you said it quickly, Vipassana. I say it with a little bit different. When you had your experiences with Vipassana, I believe there may have been an aha moment or two. Would you be able to share one of those?
Well, I can go back to when I was a teenager, and I was very fragile, because living at home with an alcoholic parent and one who's very obnoxious and very disturbed in his own mind, being drunk all the time, you felt that you were walking on eggshells all the time. And when I started training martial arts and I started doing the meditation, I absolutely hated the meditation, because as a teenager, I had so much pent up energy. I wanted to get up and I wanted to kick and I wanted to punch and I wanted to do all this, stuff that was really important for me that I felt. But the meditation allowed me to really see what was happening in my life and realize that there was something that I could do about how I was reacting to these situations, and not always have knee-jerk reactions, not always have these instantaneous rebuttals or things that would happen that would keep me in the heat of the moment and as aggravated and frustrated as everybody else in our family was. So for me, when I was being able to sit still after time, I just noticed these changes, and I realized I became the witness to everything that was happening within me and without me, with witnessing what my father was doing. And very soon after that, he lost the power to trigger me. He lost the power to control me, because I wasn't reacting the way that he wanted me to react to the situations. And so I became my own center. I became my own witness to observe everything that was taking place, and to know what to react to and what not to react to, because I had been able to sit back and see it more objectively, right? And instead of being automatically associated with it and automatically judging it or being in the middle of it, I was able to stand back and see it from a whole different point of view. And then after really observing it more fully, more holistically, I was able to make better decisions for myself and how I would proceed and move forward, what course of actions I would take in regards.
Beautiful. Thank you. Over to Deb.
Yeah, you must have had, I made obviously some little banners earlier, and you were just talking about the 18 sabbaticals. Out of all of these journeys, is there a highlight or something that was really funny or something that stood out, maybe a student along the way that stood out for you?
Well, my journeys have really been more intuitive journeys. I haven't really planned them. I just knew general areas that I would go to. When I landed in India, I think I had mentioned to you previously, I don't know if we were talking just before this, but India's a sensory explosion. And not having been to an Asian country before, picking India as my first one, the first 3 days were just trying to handle everything, because it's really an explosion to every single sense that you have, as well as an overload of information coming your way. And it took me 3 days, but within those 3 days, I was walking down the street and I saw a bus, and the bus said to Dharamsala. And I thought, Dharamsala? Yeah, I need to be on that bus. So I bought a ticket and I was on the bus that night. I got all my stuff and I got on the bus, and it was an overnight bus, 13 hours or maybe 13 and a half from Delhi to the top of McLeod Ganj in Dharamsala. And about 2 days later, I was able to have a conversation with the Dalai Lama. And everybody told me when I arrived that it's impossible. You have to book that weeks and weeks in advance. You have to give security information. You have to jump through all these hoops and these loops. And I just said, I'm sorry, but I'm here now. I didn't even know he was going to be available to have audience. And I really don't want to miss this opportunity. So what do I have to do? And when they looked at me and they said, well, you're going to have to relinquish your passport, and we'll give it back to you after you meet with him. Well, that was a big that was a big thing, because that passport, was meant to get me in and out and to other countries. And I thought, okay, but something said it was okay. Something inside of me says, do it. And so I gave my passport, and I looked at the person and I said, I'll be back tomorrow to get that after I meet the Dalai Lama. And so, sure enough, I had a wonderful conversation, short but wonderful, with the Dalai Lama. And then the day after that, I came back and I collected my passport. And I did notice that some people were missing their passports when they were collecting theirs. And I thought, well, I don't know how I got mine back, but I'm thankful that I did. And it all worked out. It was one of those experiences where nothing was planned. And yet I had a marvelous experience with meeting someone that I always really wanted to meet and have the opportunity to talk with.
Wow, that's beautiful. Sometimes we trust, right? I've been in a couple of situations on those type, not that trip to India. I don't know, giving up my passport in India. I don't know about that. But similar kind of feeling things, and sometimes you just have to trust. And sometimes it's scary when you trust. People end up out in the water drowning, Dave. So sometimes we're careful with who we. That's a whole other story. But the little situation that we experienced off in Bali. Talk about the quantum theory. You're talking about this third pillar that you're adding. And I think we're familiar, with the other two in a sense. But what is that third pillar?
Well, I started doing a lot of work in quantum medicine circles, especially out of Bangalore. There's a group there that does a lot of quantum medicine, and they bring in quantum theory to the venues of it could be all kinds of different things. We even have this computer program that works on some similar principles, but it just gives you a basic synopsis of what's happening in your body. And I used it quite a few times in my practice, and it's not totally an overall, okay, here's a diagnostic of everything. It's more like a snapshot of what's happening, especially in relation to stress levels and hormone levels and stuff like that. And so that's something that I picked up from these quantum medicine people. And as I started working through and sitting through a lot of these teaching seminars, and they asked me to teach at it as well. And one of the professors there, he's wrote a lot of books. Funny story, I'll tell you in a moment. I think his name is Amit. He's a well-known Indian doctor. He's on the circuit. He does a lot of talks. But anyways, he has, I think he has 15 books or something. I can't remember how many he has. But myself, Dr. Patrick Porter, were sitting at breakfast one time, and we're having breakfast, the three of us. And Dr. Porter says, "Oh, have you read Dr. Amit's books?" And I said, "Nah, not interested in reading them." He looked up and he looked at me and he smiled and he says, I like you because I wasn't there to really, impress him, even though he's a very well-known person. But we got along really well, and he kind of just said to me, you ever realize that what you're doing, you're actually really having a lot of quantum in your practice and what you're doing, because you're really getting through to people on a level that goes beyond just the physical, and it goes deeper and in more closer to rudimentary aspects of the source of things. And so when I started working through some of his teachings and through some of the other people there, I started realizing that there was a lot that I was doing within that quantum realm that they actually gave me that title and said, you need to put quantum into your title for the things that you do. And I thought, okay, well, if you say so, sure.
It's so interesting because I just started listening to audiobooks walking the dog every day. So I think I listened to 24 hours in the last 4 days because I did the ride too, right? So I listened nonstop on the ride. And I was looking through a series of quantum books, and it was just like, okay, I'm being drawn into reading something and I'm playing around with, I don't know, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be reading. And, I've done different studying about it, but I feel compelled to find something. And then when I was reading your bio and you mentioned quantum, I thought, well, maybe I'll ask Terry if somebody is starting out or maybe a little bit, already down that path. Do you have any books? Clearly not Amit's books, but anybody else's books that you would recommend?
I could probably come up with a list for you in relation to them. Off the top of my head, I don't have anything off the top of my head that I would recommend outright, but I can get you a few that from the circles that I've worked with in Bangalore, from the people there, that a lot of them have wrote their own books in regards to how they use it in their practices. So if you're interested, I can definitely.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. Like I said, I was searching like 3 hours ago. I was still, and I'm like, I can't. Nothing's really super resonating yet, but I know I'm supposed to be doing something. Dave, maybe you have got something on the tip of your tongue there. I don't know.
Well, again, what's happening right now, Deb, is you're using quantum. So I'm going to encourage you to tap into that intuition and continue to dance with your relationship with quantum. And yeah, it's a beautiful word. It's got so much vitality. I wanted to bring it down a little and over your right shoulder, Terry, since you've got the Tao there. And since quantum for me is the spirit side, Tao tends to be more body, mind. And I'd love you to maybe share, what does that symbol mean to you? And maybe a tip or two to help people who might be finding some challenges right now with mind and body.
Okay. The symbol behind me is known as the Bagua, and it's the yin-yang circle, but it also has the trigrams from the I Ching. And each trigram, many of them, they represent elements in nature. So fire, water, then we have a universal sort of energy, an earth energy. So they're different representations of elements. And to me, what that means is that when you look at the yin-yang symbol, and you have all these, opposites that flow from one into another. Everything is sort of moving and shifting, and from day into night, sometimes hot to cold. We have all these polarities that kind of wind, and we gain experience from these polarities because they teach us. In experiencing them, they teach us many different things within this world. So for me, it's always been about also finding the center. And this is why I called my martial arts system Chung Fu, martial arts and meditation. The reason why is Chung Fu is an actual principle from the I Ching, and it's known in English as inner truth. And so for me, when you can be in the center of everything that's taking place, of all these changes, all these different cycling polarity, changes, and you can hold or attach or connect to that inner truth, to that center within you, then you can witness all these changes that are taking place, yet you're not pulled in any particular direction. And I find, especially right now with what's taking place in the world, that there are so many people being influenced and pulled in different directions and different narratives, and so to the point where there are some people in my circles, I have to tell them, you need to turn the TV off. You need to stop watching the news. You need to get back to center, because you're losing, in some respect, you're losing your mind. And your mind is so obsessed into this way of thinking about this or that, and so they've come off of their center. They're losing that inner truth from the inside. And so I always say, when you're in the inside at peace within your center, your inner truth, Chung Fu, then that circle of yin yang can keep going around and around, and you can have all kinds of different opposites and polarities taking place, but you're not affected by them to the degree that you're being swayed or you're being pushed or you're being pulled. You're just an observer watching everything take its shape and manifestation, and you can decide on, from a more centered point of view, what you're going to do as that unrolls in front of you.
And so I heard there, spend more time in nature.
Big time.
What would be 2 or 3 more tips that you might have for people watching today as they are maybe being consumed by the television, by social media, by mental imbalances? Are there 2 or 3 or 4 of your favorite approaches?
Dave. Thanks for asking, Dave. I think, for sure, being in nature has a resonance of helping you to get to a more peaceful place on the inside. Mindfulness is really key. I find mindfulness can be experienced not just in nature, but anywhere. But the ability for you to be in the present moment rather than, being taken into the past or ruminating in past or the future or worrying. Whenever we're in these two different polarities of the past and the future, and we're always thinking about what has happened or what is going to happen, then we tend to shift outside of the present moment. There's peace in the present moment when you can be there and experience it, in a more fuller sense. And so I find walks in nature, I find also meditation, and there are many different forms of meditation. I also consider hypnotherapy a family member to meditation. So there's a lot of, guided meditations. Deb's doing that now. And yes, it has its own particular system and style, but it's still a very applicable modality in regards to helping the mind to stay more focused on what is going to give you the best benefit. So modality of hypnotherapy, of meditation, dance, just dance. One of the temples that I go to in India, they have dancing meditation, and it's wonderful. They put on music, and for an hour outside, we just dance any way we want to dance. There's no structure. There's just have fun, dance. And it doesn't matter who's watching. Just do it anyways.
So we have this thing, Terry.
Okay.
I was late, Terry. I was so engrossed in your story. We usually interrupt at 33 minutes.
Oh,
we have the 33-minute. Yet your storytelling was so hypnotic. It got me to miss it. So I apologize, Deb. I apologize.
No, I didn't want.
Our regulars.
I was in the moment. I wasn't worried about the the past or the future, the chaos when you go from one to the other so rapidly in your mind that you can't even get your feet on the ground that day. But so we have this 33rd moment. Dave, why don't you read it there? What I thought would be a good magic moment.
We've been playing with the words that could be the magical 33-minute moment. It could be your miracle moment. And so we like to allow that 33-minute, as you're familiar with the sacred geometry and sacred numbers also. So we invite that as part of each of our sessions, inviting our members to also answer the question for themselves. And of course, if we'd love to get you today to share who is or was your most significant teacher.
I've had so many, but if I was to really look back on where I've taken most of my lessons from, it would have been from nature itself. And a lot of people have taught me a lot of things, but really observing nature at its essence has done amazing things for me over the years. So I would say my best teacher has been nature.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Deb?
Thank you. You know, I'm going back between two. One is a grade 8 teacher that I had that was so unique and sat us down on Friday afternoons for Fun Fridays. And we did a series of lessons with him, very different than school. You know, I'm okay, you're okay, we're all okay. And that stayed with me, 14, 15 years old. But, I think spirit, whatever spirit is, that universal oneness, the experience, the visions that I had, that I've had, and that directive, that's the greatest teacher, because in really difficult times, there was a guide, or there was something there that spoke to me in a few different ways. And there's nothing greater than that type of connection. When you feel, right, we all grew up, it's like we go through things and you feel like you're alone, or you feel different, or you feel weird for various reasons. You feel strange. You don't fit in. You feel like you have to, fight somehow, or, or the opposite, be alone in order to just survive. So I think spirit would be for me. I love you, Mr. Nichols, wherever you are, but Dave?
Well, since I'm going to pick another one, since you've both done great experiences of sharing from youth and then from nature, I'm going to say a book, and it's the Book of Secrets, and it's by Osho. It's the 113 Ways to Enlightenment. And I carried that book around for 27 days in India, and just that little book in my backpack, and me went and experienced exercises of daily practice of the Book of Secrets. And it was absolutely incredible. So as we're sharing a little bit of India, and it was each day I'd go on a bus and I would read a chapter of the book, and it was notice the smells and notice the air and breathe, and all these beautiful 2-page, 3-page. It's actually 1,100-page book, but there's a series of 113 ways to experience enlightenment. And I ended up at Osho's ashram in Pune, and that's where I learned a bunch of other stuff. Yet it was that book, the Book of Secrets by Osho, that had a huge impact on having that experience of separation of body and observer in the middle of a bus with chickens and cows and what, and just noticing how hilarious it was.
Type it in the feed there, Dave, in Facebook, the name of that book. Maybe it'll be a book I listen to.
By the way, Dave, one of the places that I've studied at is Osho's International Meditation Center in Pune. And I started there 21 years ago. And I have friends there that live there to this day. And I go back. Usually when I'm in India, I finish with a trip to Pune, because it's so cool within the resort there that it's like a little vacation away from things, as well as you can do multiple very different meditations within the actual meditation center. So we have that in common as well.
Absolutely. I'm sure we have actually quite a few different wonderful experiences. That's where when you were talking about the energy of the 20-year-old and the teenager, that dynamic meditation of Osho's is absolutely incredible, because that yang energy is just so fiery. And so to get a 15-year-old to sit down and Om, it might not be the best practice, yet go get them to do the whirling dervish or the dynamic meditation, and they're fully exhausted, and they do have the body and mind experience. It's absolutely incredible. And I really, if you're doing a lot of that here in the West, it's fabulous. And I wish we could see a lot more of it, because it really could help a lot of people with their mental health. Yeah,
and I really resonate with the Kundalini meditation that Osho created, and the No Dimensions as well. So there's some fantastic meditations that have come through Osho into the world.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, it goes by. I miss martial arts. I miss the actual training and I left that when I took up cycling and, did the fitness thing for a number of years. And then I just felt I needed some separation. But I was always still doing, going through the meditations. And I think it is so important. And a lot of what I teach now, whether it's in mindful group or hypnosis group or whatever it is, it's all about that unification of mind, body, spirit. And you guys have done so much in that area. I feel like, in a couple of years, I'll be turning 60. And I did try to connect with you, Terry, and go, what was it called? Wudun? China.
Wudun. Yeah, the Wudun.
It was like, just couldn't make that happen. I don't know. Did you actually go on that trip? Because that was just
that was the last one before COVID struck, and it was a wonderful trip. We had a wonderful time. I wish you had been with us, but maybe sometime in the future.
It's been a dream to actually go. So I've been to China, but I actually went there to learn NLP years and years ago.
Okay.
2008. It was a 2-week. I was going to say a holiday, but it was not really a holiday. But I've always wanted to go back and actually do the training and go to a temple and do some martial arts.
Well, if you ever get a chance to go to Wudun with me or without me or with somebody else or by yourself, you have to. The energy in the mountains of Wudun is really special, and it's just a beautiful place. And there are some really great people there. I've been to Shaolin Temple too, in the north, but I find that the Shaolin is much more commercial. There's a lot of commercial things happening, but in Wudun, there's still pockets that there, just the scenery alone is breathtaking. I
know.
And the walk to the top of Wudun Mountain, which will take you half a day, is spectacular, and it makes for a wonderful walking meditation because the scenery and everything that you experience along the way is kind of like looking at the scenery of your own life as you continue, and it's just beautiful. But yeah, definitely, I can't recommend enough to get there at some point because it really is a unique place.
Well, I don't have a lot on my bucket list, but because I actually go through them pretty quickly when I put them there, but that is one, and it would be a wonderful trip. Hey, if the 3 of us went, that would be amazing. Take some people. I'd love to do that. We're getting close to the end of the time, Terry. I want you to talk about what you're doing now. What are you focusing in? We have about 14 minutes, but what are you focusing in or on at this time of your life?
Okay. Yeah, well, right now I'm focusing in on creating 3 different programs. These are meditation programs, but they come with a journal and they come with auditory meditations, and it also comes with a 5-minute video. And some of the videos are based on Qigong, some of them are based on other physical movements or just understanding different viewpoints, helping to expand one's awareness. One of those particular projects is on emotional centering. So being centered within, which is what I've talked about, which really is why Chung Fu came about for me, because it's developing that center no matter what's taking place in the world, in your life. The other one is on mindfulness, and the other one is basically understanding how happiness can be created day by day by the things that you do and giving back, not just receiving. So these are 21-day programs that a person can follow, whichever one resonates with them the most. And I'll be offering those probably later in the year because I'm just about finishing them up. And so that's really what I'm focusing in. I'm also focusing on taking a component of body movement and the science behind what's come out lately within the last 10 to 15 years about all the different hormonal factors. And I don't know if you study any of this, but we look back in our evolution, we realize that movement, food, and learning, those 3 things go hand in hand for millions and millions of years, because we had to find food, we had to track food, so we had to move to get it, and we had to learn different ways, strategies to be able to get it. So our brain has evolved and expanded over the years because we're learning while we're moving and, while we're chasing food or getting food or collecting food. So what they're discovering now is that these protein factors like brain-derived neurotropic factor and insulin growth-like factor vascular endothelial growth factor. These are things that are released through exercise, cardio. About at least 30 minutes. If you're doing that, you're releasing these protein factors through your bloodstream up through the blood-brain barrier. And then what it does is it's like Miracle-Gro. It really works on your neurons because it helps them to develop new synaptic connections that you can use for learning, for all kinds of different things. It repairs old ones that are broken down. It helps offset degenerative problems with aging in the brain. So this is really what I'm focusing on putting into these programs, is that knowledge with the meditations and the actual following along with the videos too.
That's fabulous. Dave, do you have a follow-up?
I guess I'm curious on, you definitely have spot on bringing in some of the great wisdom from the East. I'm hearing the whole idea of the mind, body, and spirit, and the movement, and the healing, the self-healing, and the responsibility for one's own well-being. And if we juxtaposition what goes on in the West, where we do have this take a drug, take a pill, take a lockdown type of idea, what ways can your message be expressed in a way that really gets more amplification, as opposed to the big companies that just inundate? Go watch, like, again, I know you don't watch TV. Probably none of us watch TV yet. It's advertisement. It's like it's shocking. When I came back to Canada after being away decades and seeing that, it just like it's so repelling for me. Yet I'm curious on what you can do to amplify the self-healing, the self-responsibility, and the self-choice.
Yeah, for me, this is why I wrote a book. This is why I'm developing these programs. This is why I go around teaching to not only my own students here in Canada, but also around the world to different universities. Or, I find the more that you can share this information and get away from the typical pharmaceutical sort of, this is the best answer for everything. And don't get me wrong, allopathic medicine, there's a place for that in certain situations. And I know I was in India one time, I got really sick and I tried to fight it. It was a parasite, and I tried to fight it all by myself, and I got more and more sick. And luckily, I know a doctor in India, a medical doctor, and he says, "Yeah, you've got this. Just take these; it'll get rid of it in 3 days." I was after fighting it for a month and feeling like crap. It got rid of it. So there's a place for that type of medicine, but I've never, other than emergency situations, I've never ever used medications for anything. And I really am a firm believer that we are meant to move. We are meant to use our brains, our minds in certain ways. We are meant to do these wonderful things that nature has given us the ability to come into unity, to come into harmony with, that will nourish our body, that will nourish our mind, that will nourish our spirit. And I find that the more I share this message through the different modalities that I'm working, on putting out there and teaching, that there are people that are listening, because people are looking for other alternatives now. And, the typical alternative for the last 100 years, just pop a pill, do this, take this medication. It's not working to the degree that a lot of people know that it's not working. And it's time to investigate on how to nourish your own immune system, how to nourish your own vitality. And so for me, that's what my whole life really has been about. My whole message has really been about.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Dave, eloquent question. And Terry, thank you so much for that response. I think we're all on the same mission in terms of that. And I think the greatest way that we can convey that is by our actions and by what we do. And, we're all out there. Maybe Terry, you're more on the motorcycle. I've been itching to get on a motorcycle lately too. I don't know what it is. I heard one go by today and I was like, oh, Maybe
For
I'm going to
me,
be riding a motorcycle.
motorcycling is another meditation. So
That's what I believe. Now I'm on, listen, my wheels on my bike are almost as large probably as your motorcycle wheels.
yes,
I'm drawn that way. But the point is that, you know, when we combine those three aspects that you mentioned, right? When you're moving your body, you're feeling better. You're breathing the air. You're getting oxygen in this system. The neurons on your brain are actually activated. And when you're out and about, you become more curious. That creates, again, you know, more movement in your brain. And I think that you draw in a certain energy when you have that type of vitality in your life. And I have to say, what you said about medications, I've had so many people, you know, and I would say in the beginning of the year, almost everybody that I see as clients makes some comment about, I don't want to be on medication, or I only try, like it's, you know, when there's a crisis, but I don't want to be on it. I don't want to be on it. And we talk about those three components, that mind, body, spirit, and you can't excel in one if the other two aren't amped up a little bit, right?
and I think we have to do the spreading of information, because we're not mega corporations that have umpteen mega billions of dollars. But when we're working with people and we meet other people who are working in the same capacity, we do have an effect, and I think it is very powerful. And you know, in the year 2000, Duke University published a research paper on how exercise was proven to be more effective than Zoloft for depression. But it got published at the back of the paper when it was released. It should have been on the front of the paper. It should have been right on the front cover. Study 2000, Duke University researchers have proven that exercise is more effective than Zoloft. But where was it? It was in the back somewhere, buried under health issues. And this is the issue that we face in our society is great research like this is not put in the forefront. It's not put right in front of people. It's buried. And we have to be the ones that we bring it to people and say, there is another way. And so that's what we're all doing.
And it's as simple as walking and getting your head up, leaving your cell phone at home.
Yeah.
Right? People are programmed like this. This is depression and anxiety. You know,
just start with a walk. You know, start with, you know, join if you're not motivated to do it yourself, join a group. You know, when things start opening back up, join a group so you're committed to doing something every week. Join me. I play volleyball. You know, we can play volleyball. I'm on a volleyball team. I was on a baseball team. I do martial arts. You know, and I'm not. You don't have to be a super athlete. I'm not a super athlete, but I just know that keeping active, keeping yourself moving is so beneficial for you. And I just really hope that anybody who's watching this and comes across this will take that up if you're not already active, and just start simple. You don't have to start, running marathons or anything. I don't even do that. Just start simple, and most importantly is have fun with it. If you're having fun moving and exercising, you're going to want to do it over. So that's why I say join a club, join a group, join a hiking, do volleyball, do something that's going to allow you to have fun with, do whirling meditation, do dancing meditation. You're still moving. So it's good.
Mm-hmm. And forget about that motivated part. Like, you don't have to be motivated. You just do it. You just get up and do it. Make it just part of your day, right?
Exactly.
Final thought. You have 1 minute.
I think I just made it.
I think you did too, but I just want to make sure that
maybe a little bit of fun might be. Do you still? What would be 3 or 4 things on your bucket list? Are there places that you'd still like to go, or things you'd like to do, or things that excite you about potentially outside to expand?
Yeah. I still have many countries that I need to go explore. In the last year, I haven't done any traveling at all. And usually I do at least 2 to 3 new countries a year. So that I have a little catching up to do. But yeah, for me, I've always had this spirit of I need to go out and explore different aspects of the world. And so I find that very fun. I find it also very healthy, because you're walking and hiking and doing different things, as well as learning and exploring. I really enjoy being out there and having my own experiences, and also helping other people to have their experiences. And hopefully in the near future, one of my projects is I'm looking at setting up a retreat center myself in, well, there's a few different countries that I'm looking at right now, and I have a partner involved that will be able to offer a home base for residential. So when I'm not doing these retreats around the world traveling, I can have people come and sort of take a live-in program type thing, and then they can start to nourish and heal, and while they're living in and doing things on a daily basis. And I really see the need for that. So that is going to be a primary focus of mine within the next 5 years, to create that sort of sanctuary for people to experience, not just traveling with me for a few weeks, but actually living in and experiencing it firsthand, day by day.
Terrific.
Beautiful. That sounds fabulous. Can't wait to see what that turns into. Okay. So Terry, thank you so much for joining David tonight on Pray Love. I could keep on talking to you.
It's been fun.
If you ever need somebody to sit in the back of your motorcycle and go for a ride, give me a call. Dave, thank you. Thanks to everybody who watches Pray Love. We truly appreciate it. Take care of yourself and go out and have a walk.
Yes.
Thanks, I'm on my way. Thank you.
See you behind the scenes.
Good
night.
Good night.
Love is all is love is all love is all is love is